No reason to go live.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of January Joy. This time, I'm joined by my good friend Michael Simmons. Michael, do you wanna introduce yourself before we get into it?
Yeah, I'm a lifelong education entrepreneur. And so I just really, really resonate with capitalist and January joy. I've been trying to solve the puzzle my whole life of how do you have the freedom of an entrepreneur? How do you make good money so you can support your family, save for the future, and actually not just enjoy the goal of what you're doing, but also the process of it. Wake up each day excited to do what you do, feeling like a kid in the candy store.
Yeah, I think that's so. So I went home for Christmas, and this is not any shade on either uh my family or my wife's family, but they are all, including my wife, lifelong people with jobs, jobbies, jobbers, like I don't know, like they like have worked. So when I'm like, I make money by like doing things that are fun, they're like, I don't understand. When I'm like, quantum entanglement really has a lot to do with like growing a business, or that you can just do the things that like are fun and people pay for it. Or like I was talking with my sister and I was like, she's like, I don't think I could do this for a living. Like just like do this like thing that she really wanted. It was like it's only like 600 people you need to give you $400 a year, and you have a PhD. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you can like, how could you not find 600 people in the entire world to give you $400, or 400 people to give you 600? Like, it's like math wise, it's
Yeah.
so like it feels like inevitable when you put it that way. But like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, Kevin Kelly has the idea of 1,000 true fans. Get 1,000 people to pay you $10.
Right.
I actually feel like it's more like for the average person to make a livelihood who's not used to being a creator or an entrepreneur. I feel like the safest path would be like truth, like 30 people that pay you whatever that amount, $3,000 a year,
Right.
because 600 people is actually a lot of people. And it's hard to reach out to those people one on one and have a direct relationship with people. So if someone's not a creator, it's much easier for them to do one on one. And to get 30 people paying $3,000, you might need to talk to
Right.
150 people, something like that.
Right. Well, I also would say that probably if you have a job, your job is a very good contractor often for you also. So you may need like one job to put you at halftime, or one job to like leave, and then you contract for 6 months at 50,000, like at your salary or more than your salary, to like continue on. Like I see this with entrepreneurship all the time, and people don't think it's like, well, the person who's gonna probably pay you the best is the one who was already paying you the best,
Right,
and the person
right.
who probably
Yeah.
needs your spot. You know what I mean? And you
Yeah.
could only need one person actually. Like you could like I don't think it's a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket, but I know plenty of people who like are contracting with one place to make them 100 grand a year as well.
There is a Reddit community that I sometimes go to just for curiosity. I think it's called Overemployed.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily condone what everyone's doing there, but it's a whole system of people having like four, 3 or 4 full-time jobs where like some of them are making, over a hundred
Right.
thousand dollars from each job. And there's like a whole, so I don't suggest this, but it's just interesting like to see that there's a whole community of people that like, okay, you have to not ever agree to an in-person meeting because then they might find you, but then they're using
Uh,
AI to really systematize each position. And so it is interesting finding those even 2 to 3 good, semi full-time could be powerful.
yeah. Or also like there's a lot of people that are doing fractional work now, where like I was talking with my wife about her job as she's a research director at a company, and she was like, well, I was like, well, you could do this for 10 companies for 5 hours a week, or 10 hours, or 10 hours a month. And like, because like one of her things is there's not a lot of people that there's not a lot of full-time positions in research directing in like the field that she's in. I was like, well, like, but like everyone wants a research director. like everyone wants like a research director part time. They all want like one research project. So like if you
Yeah.
like there's like a
Yeah.
million ways to like peel the apple, right? And like you could do it in any number of ways.
Yeah. I agree. And I think, yeah, I don't know how much your audience likes or doesn't like AI. I
Right.
feel like there's a lot of risks, there's a lot of moral issues, and there's a lot of things that are exciting about it. But I do feel like if somebody uses AI to do their job better, to grow as a person, to learn how to enjoy their work more, it maybe helps them be able to do a fractional lifestyle more easily. And I know a few
Right.
people who are doing that really well.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I talked to a couple people about last year when it came to AI, I was like, oh, AI is taking you out of a job. Like they're training you out of a job. It's like, you could just take all those processes and like do that for 20 more companies, like a year. You could just like if you know how to like work yourself out of a job, you could like like that's a process that like other companies want to model also. Maybe not to take other people out of a job, but just like they're a very small team and they need AI to be built up, or like they need something. But like not that you should not that it's a great thing when your company is trying to train you out of a job, but like if you can do it one time, you can do it a bunch of other times for other companies and other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah,
feel
and I
like one
think
thing that
no, go
like
for it.
was a big transition point for me in my whole journey of like creating work that I enjoy and that's meaningful is in my 20s, early 20s, I wrote a book, The Student Success Manifesto, and
Uh,
I had a blog for a few years and started an education company. But I was so much in the change the world camp and very much in the viewing that through goals. So it's like, okay, here's the vision to leave a lasting legacy, impacting a lot of people. 10 years. Okay, what is that? The 10-year, 5-year goal, 1-year goal. Then it's like every day waking up. What are the three most important things I need to get done? And so that worked in some ways. Like in our 20s, we built a company over $1 million and it
mm,
bootstrapped as an education company, which is not an easy thing to do and
uh,
feeling the impact. But I also burned out because I actually didn't like the actions I had to do every day. And
right.
I kept on needing to add more and more willpower to it to like, okay, I need accountability partner. I need deadlines or like adding more things to it. And when my kids were 3 and 5, I reached a point of like, I just couldn't actually get myself to follow through.
Mm,
And I went through a few year period of like, okay, I thought I was really motivated, but like, what's wrong with me? And when I started writing around 2013, I started writing for Forbes as my first publication. And the big decision I made then is I would only write articles that I just was deeply curious about and was so excited to write about it that I could do it at 9 p.m. after
right.
both kids were asleep and I had like normally didn't have energy. It had to be so energizing that I would like suddenly get this second burst of energy. And I found that criteria just immediately started working. I was finding the time, I was getting energized. The articles right away before I had trouble getting traction, then it was resonating with more people. And so I really tried to do follow that over the past 10 years. I feel like it's a lot easier said than done. Uh, it's hard to
Well,
balance those parts, but
I often coach people, and I just a couple of months ago I was talking to somebody, and I've had this conversation so many times, but like they'll be like, "What are you doing that you enjoy?" And they'll list a bunch of actions, and I'm like, "Do you enjoy any of those actions?" And they're like, "No." It's like, okay, like what are you doing that you actually enjoy? And then we'll go through this round, and I'm like, okay, let's stop there. Because what you're saying is like you're not doing anything you enjoy. And also, you're not motivated to do the thing that you're doing. And also, no one is resonating with this thing because, like, would you resonate? Like, if I just told you all of these things, would you resonate? Like, would you want me to continue to do this thing? And they always say, no, well, no. I'm like, well, like,
yeah, yeah. It is kind of obvious when you put it like that. It's almost then given that it's so obvious, it's interesting that our culture isn't designed this way.
Mhm.
Even starting from school, it kind of replaces, let's say, someone's intrinsic joy of learning. Unless you have an exceptional teacher, it's like it becomes about the grade. Like, how can I get the grade? And if it's like homework, okay, how can I get this done the shortest amount of time possible? And so, of course, you have people using AI for cheating because you're in a paradigm that rewards getting the highest grade to get to the best school, to get the best job.
Right.
So,
Well, and
um,
finite. Like it's like a finite. Only so many people can get into the number one school, and so like whenever you have that kind of motivation, like the motivation to cheat is very high because
right,
the
right.
like if the Ivy League school that you want to go to is vastly will improve your odds theoretically like of a successful life exponentially more than going to like Joe's Hoboken School of Technology.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like if you're looking at something where it's like, okay, over my lifetime, I'll make millions of dollars more. Yeah, it just puts a pressure to do that. Um, yeah, and I feel like part of the this lifestyle for me has been I'm still it's trying to do a dynamic alignment. I'm changing, the world is changing, and before rather than making the goal and then like making myself subservient to it, it's like still having goals and intentions in the
Mhm.
internal and trying to have a dynamic alignment can be really hard because what I find is as I do something and I learn about it, then part of me wants to go on to the next thing.
Sure.
Whereas sometimes in a business, once I learn about something and systematize it, then it's like, okay, now you spend a few years just doing the same thing over and over rather than, you know, okay, I'm on to the next thing that I enjoy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it also goes back to the this like Puritan work ethic that we've been had drilled into us because we're taught that like work is hard. Like that is what like when you are doing work, it is hard. And so when we are doing things that we are in flow in, that is definitionally not hard, like because we are in flow on that thing. And then we're like, oh, I can't do that stuff. Like, I gotta find the thing that's hard now. And so often I talk to people and they're like, why aren't I growing? And I'm like, well, there are three things that I know without knowing your business very well that I know grow for you every time. When was the time you did any of those things? And they're like, I can't do those things. Why?
Hmm.
Be- because like I feel it feels like cheating. And I'm like, yes, those are the things. Like those are the things. Like the things that feel like cheating are the things you can sell to other people. They're the things that like you can do. And they're the magic tricks you come back to. And like there are only like 10 magic tricks. You just continue to do them in different combinations and line them up. Like there's a finite number of things that you have to learn to be like a decent magician. And the trick is you line them all up in different ways and like you categorize like Chris Angel mind freaks the same mind freaking way every frigging time. He just like makes it look different.
Yeah. 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 That's really well put. I do feel like, I feel like in the jump between paradigms, that when we're in a paradigm, the things outside of the paradigm that we need to do, they're really hard to see because they feel like cheating or like, oh, I can't do that. I'm too busy or like it's so I feel like one mental model that I share with me is just a lot of times like the biggest opportunity for growth or change is actually counterintuitive in the sense that it's in this category of things that you've written off for whatever reason. That's not how the world works.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I got this from my wife. We've been together 25 years now. We met during college, but I feel like we had enough things where she would say something and I'm like, ah, that's silly. And then a few months later, I would just see like I would have the idea and like it was mine. And she's like, actually, I told you that 3 months ago. So I feel
Right.
like I really just saw it's like I really have. Sometimes you have to like take that leap of faith to not trust your intuition almost and just at least explore it something else.
Yeah. Can you give an example of how that worked in your own business or one of your businesses?
Yeah. Well, I think the Forbes thing was one good first example where before that, my natural inclination was, okay, everything I do needs to directly lead to the goals in the business. So it felt
Right,
weird to do that. Or I felt like the partners in the business, I was insecure because they're going to be like, hey, why isn't this about the business? Uh,
right.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's also hard because, yeah, like the things that seem obvious to you aren't obvious to anyone else, right? And
Right, right.
we think that we are like I talk to other businesses that do wholly different things, and they also are like, oh, obviously you do it this way, and I'm like, that is not obvious. Nothing that I do is obvious to other people, but it feels obvious to me. And I constantly am in this battle with my wife because she doesn't live in my head. Did you know other people don't live in your head? And I get so frustrated
Yeah.
because I say something and I'm like, wait, do you not understand like the 50 layers of context that I have for this thing? And she's like, I do not. I'm like, okay, well, now we got to go on a whole journey, my dear, because like I have to
Yeah.
explain to you how I have to explain to you chaos theory, quantum entanglement, and how both of those things relate to growing a business. But
Yeah. I can relate to that. Well, because I feel like, yeah, we're all living in these different worlds. And sometimes it's not just like you can explain one concept and then you're on the same page. Like,
right,
especially if one spends a lot of their time learning and growing and exposing yourself to something, it's almost like I need to teach you a course. So if you want to like see this thing from my perspective and vice versa, somebody else in their world, I need to get to it. So for me, like my wife is much more intuitive and she's done somatic coaching on the side and things like that. And I remember like when we were younger, I asked her like what she thought the purpose of life was, and she said, "Experience the moment." And I remember we were walking in the woods, and I was like, "That seems like the most BS answer ever. Like, what does that even mean?" Or I'd almost get frustrated when I hear people say, "I got to feel into that." I was just like, "What does that even mean?" So for me to go into her world, I feel like it's taken. She's had to be very patient with me because it's like switching from from an intellectual paradigm to having all the like in the intellectual paradigm, I know I can see all the layers of the structure. You said like the 50 contextual things. I have them all categorized in my mind. But like when I was learning about more somatic things, they'd be like, okay, do you feel anything in your body? I was like, no, not really. I feel like,
yeah,
where other people in that world, they have all the like sensations and they link up the sensation in their body with this emotion and here and they can feel like when somebody comes to their presence, the energy that's having on them and the impact.
yeah, I love that. I mean, I went on a whole journey. That my ex business partner was much more in the energetic spaces, and I was much more in the non intellectual space. So between her and my wife and like three other people, my co-host for my podcast is very I like I I went on a whole journey, and now I can say things like the present and like things you do in the present can influence the past, and like some people will
Mm.
be like, obviously, and you're like, okay, great. And other people will be like, wait, say more things about that. And I'll be like, okay, I have three layers of deepness here that I can go into. How esoteric do you want to go? And but like that was a big journey from we have direct influence only on the actions to like, oh, things in the present can influence the past, and like quantum entanglement can like do all sorts of crazy stuff like on multiple levels. And yeah, so it's difficult. So for instance, I was at home for the holidays and my wife was trying to tell my in-laws and my brother-in-law about like how this idea, and she's like, can you talk to them? I was like, I don't want to talk to them because like they're not interested in the thing. Like they don't want to actually understand it, they just want to poke holes in it, and like I am. not, I'm on vacation. I'm not in a place to poke hole. I don't want them poking holes in my stuff. Like they can go on their own journey. And like when they're ready, I'm happy to be there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
but yeah, it's
feel
like, yeah,
God,
go for it.
sorry.
No, no, I'm done.
Yeah, I feel like in some ways I like writing just to feel like not alone in the sense that I think it's really hard to share like if you're at an event, there's just not enough time to go deep on
Mm,
anything. And also it's just the context isn't right. So I think one of
right.
the nice things about the online world is you can really take the time to really connect the dots. And I feel like
Mm,
that feels really good. If there's something I've learned that I
mm,
can like connect one dot for someone, that feels really good and feel less alone. And vice versa. I love when someone writes something or creates something that's like, oh wow, something I can see from this whole nother perspective in life. Like there's all these people that existed
right.
in this world before and I didn't even know it existed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting when especially when your audience grows and you've been doing it when you see like, wow, like the thing in my head is not obvious. And I can tell it's not obvious because like 30 people commented on this one thing that is like Tuesday for me, but it like completely blows their mind. And then like when you've been doing it long enough, when you can see that come back to you also, and there's that like energetic exchange, it's
Mm,
it's like a really like that's where I think about like these joyous moments is because it's like, oh, well, like now, like when once I learn about a thing, everything makes sense. That like
mm,
I'm like, oh my God, like how my most people seem to when they learn things go from like 1% knowledge to like 10% knowledge to like 11 and 12 like as they learn things like their model of the world improves, but my brain is more like a jigsaw puzzle where it like doesn't make any sense at all, no matter what actions I do. And then like something will come and be like, oh my God, my entire life makes sense. Like I understand all of these things and going back 20 years in this context, 'cause I learned this one thing and I never know what that thing is going to be.
yeah, I really like that metaphor of a jigsaw puzzle. You have all these elements and sometimes it just, you get something and then it connects
Right.
lots of different pieces. Um, this is maybe too nerdy for this audience. I don't know. Maybe not for you though. You know the Watchmen movie
Sure.
when no, I forget Doctor Manhattan. He's on
Mm,
Mars and he's kind of given up on humanity. I feel like that was one of the most beautiful scenes to me of like just him having a memory, him seeing something kind of just shifted his whole how he saw everything, and so he went from like giving up on humanity and like connected to like completely re-engaging with humanity. And I feel like that's the power of sometimes all of us right now. There's something out there right now that literally someone could say to us or we could hear that could shift the whole constellation of our being.
yeah. So capitalist revolves around this idea of distributed responsibility where we are all responsible for breaking each other's keys and locks. So like
Mm,
in any situation, what ends up happening is we come in with our lock and like the thing that is blocking us from getting to the next level, and we are hyper focused on this thing. And
mm,
then like we forget that we opened like 1,000 locks before in our lives, like not just in business, but just like we learned to walk and like we learned to speak and we learned maybe to speak English and like we learned how to like drive a car. All of these things are like blocks that prevented us from doing a thing, and then a series of information came to allow us to unlock, and like those keys still exist around us like all the time. And we are so hyper focused on this one thing that we forget this moment. And so when I talk about like capitalist one of the big principles is that we all come with locks, but we also come with keys. And if we just work together to like figure out who has the right key to the lock, like we can solve 10, 20, 30 locks in the same amount of time that we were working on this one thing. And all what it takes is all of us thinking about the locks and the keys that we all have and putting the right person into the right block breaker, as opposed to how education has worked for a long time, which is like I, Russell Nolte, am the person who has all the answers. When like
Yeah.
Russell Nolte only has one very small segment of an answer and only in this one lived experience that I have.
And going back to the, capitalism play of words, yeah, I feel like sometimes the way we culturally instantiate capitalism or even
Hmm.
online markets is very much winner take most. So it's like only a few
Right.
people are smart and everyone else like has less value is like almost the unspoken thing on some
Hmm.
level, or it's like only a few people get into the top schools and everyone else is somehow less than, or okay, a few people have gotten prestige and money, most people haven't.
Right.
And I just feel like that's a very impoverished model because
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people because I feel like just from my upbringing, my mom was a Polish refugee, and it was like education was always important. So I was like getting good grades in honors classes and going to top uh, college. And then from there, 90% of people went on to investment banking and consulting because those were the highest paid and prestigious
Mhm.
things. And I feel like it can be very, I forget where I was going with that, but I just feel like that almost does as much harm not only to the people that are looked down upon in a society, but also the people who feel like they have everything figured out. I feel
Right.
like the nature, in some ways, of it is that everyone has their obviously their own unique experiences, but the people who excel in one thing often necessarily are really bad at other areas. Because if you,
Right.
and just picking like Elon Musk, because he's the most public one, very successful as an entrepreneur, but he's also spent, if you spend 100%, 100 hours per week growing a business and everything in that frame, you're just not going to be as good at in other things. And
Right.
that's a form of poverty as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the other half of this, though, is like either one or two people have the answers or everyone has every answer in the world. And like, this is the other democratization problem, which is like, some people don't have every answer, but like a person could have an answer. It's this like anton ego. And it's like a great, a great chef, and not everyone can be a great chef, but a great chef can come from anywhere. And it
Hmm.
like takes this like Dunning Kruger effect to or to understand the things you actually know. And like this is like either we are exchanging our knowledge for somebody who knows more, or we are saying that like we have the answer to these problems. Because like that's the other thing that I see all the time, especially in like Facebook groups and Reddit communities. I'm like, but you don't actually know the answer to this. You are taking this thing that you, because you want to be involved in the conversation and you are saying that you are an expert and you are giving your opinion, but like that is not an educated opinion. So like education doesn't just come from education, but like if you don't have the edge, you like it, distributed responsibility requires both things. It requires you to believe that you have the key when you do, but
Right.
it also m- makes you understand that you don't have the keys you don't have, and that's okay. Like if you don't have a key to the car, you don't have to hotwire it. You just have to find the person with the key to the car.
Yeah. I like that. I really like that. That have both radical humility. Um, I remember when I was younger reading Gandhi's autobiography, there's a line that always stuck with me of like humble as dirt, just for whatever reason that stuck with me. But also combining that with like I don't know what to compare the opposite to, but just the like you are special, you have something to
Right.
offer, unique to offer that no one else does. And that's
Right.
for a reason I'm passionate about what I do with Blockbuster Blueprint and teaching people about thought leadership is, thought leadership is a container word, but on some level, it's helping people learn, like notice where they're unique and what unique gifts they can share, and then sharing that and doing so in a way where you're learning the most. You're learning by sharing as well, and then you're connecting with people, you're having an impact.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of this idea that there are these people that are on this pedestal that know all the information makes you overly reliant on wanting to be that person on the pedestal, which
Right.
means you're like, well, if I want to be the expert, I got to know all the things about all the things, and everything is, and so like it
Mm,
creates this like perpetuating cycle where like we can't just know some of the things. We either have to like have this beginner's mind where we know nothing, or we have to know all of the things. Whereas like I like this idea, the idea of like I like the idea of a generalist in general terms, but I also I think we need to also understand that like it is a good idea for people to have one strain of knowledge that is very deep, and to only put our faith in a person when that knowledge is deep enough that they have expertise in it. Like, I don't know who's going to tell me which mushrooms are poisonous, but like, I want the person that I trust with that to actually know which things are poisonous. And if you don't know which things are poisonous, like, don't pretend like you do because you're going to kill me.
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, I feel like sometimes I feel like the medical profession feels like that. I kind of think about the T-shaped professional expert generalist that
Mm,
ultimately the most value, maybe the impact comes from being a specialist. But one of the best ways to be a specialist is not just to stay in one field, but to go broad so that you can make
right.
connections and insights into that specialization that other people can't. And I think
Well,
it's hard for people to realize, including myself, like where our most unique gifts are because
mhm,
they're just so obvious to us. Like for us, we're
right.
normal. No matter how neuroatypical someone is, on some level, they feel normal in their own
Right.
subjective experience because that's what they know. So it's hard to be like, okay, this is the unique thing that only I know. And it takes a lot of, I guess, mapping other people and sharing it and testing it.
Well, I really like the idea of the T-shaped specialist generalist because if you know enough about a topic, you will know who the expert in that topic is also, and then you're like, I don't want to be the expert in this topic. I can tell you the four things you need to know on the top, but then this is the person who actually there's this thing about when someone dies, not to get super morose about it, but the idea is when you that we store our memories in other people.
Yeah.
So when somebody dies, very real grief is a part of you dies because you lost the parts that you stored in them. But in a very real thing with that T-shaped person, like you are I don't need to know everything about every topic because I'm storing my expertise in somebody else who's going to like have that expertise, which allows me to offload that expertise and go even deeper on the thing that I am really good
Mm.
at and at that intersection.
Yeah, I love that. It really points to almost a different way of defining yourself, and how you relate to a system. And I feel like there's a way of looking at learning of like, okay, I want to get all the knowledge in the world and I'll be the smartest person,
Right.
versus more systematic. And it's more of a flow of, what are you talking about? Distributed
Right.
responsibility.
Yeah. Well, and it's like it's impossible at one point in the universe, it was possible to know all the things. Like even in like to know most of them, like you could read in the 1500s. Well, you'd have to travel around, but like all of the important books because like there were 100 of them. Like,
Right,
but
right.
like now 70,000 books come out every day. So I think we need a different idea of
70,000
what
books a
edu
day?
yeah, 70,000 books a day on Amazon. That's what just on
Wow.
Amazon. So like
Jeez.
if you read a book every day for like your entire life from birth to death, you'll read about 30,000 books. So there's not even enough books. Like your entire life isn't enough for you to read the books on pick any day that exists now. So like I
Yeah.
think we have to have this new idea of like what it means to like be an expert and like what it means to be a valued member of a system because you physically can you will burn out trying to learn all the things, but you can certainly know who has the most learned opinions on a topic and be able to point people there. And if you're a
Yeah.
great use of an ecosystem, you can say, "Hey, I know this topic. Can you bring me all the people who know want this topic, and I'll bring you all the people that know that topic." And then like that distributed responsibility also works on an expert level.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like there's stages. Not everyone goes in the same stages or different people go different
Right,
orders. But I feel like one is like, okay, like I just want to I want to learn a lot myself. And then you're like, okay, I can't keep up. The only way I can keep up is by like holding maybe a little bit less knowledge on people, but being thinking more relationally. So it's like
right,
self to network. I feel like another transition is knowing to unknowing that
right,
it's just, I don't know, the more like part of the ways I tried to learn is developmentally, not just skill wise or like living other people's experiences. So maybe I grew up more intellectually, but I feel like if I can learn emotionally or somatically and then combine those three,
right,
it allows a lot, but it's also just almost spiritual or because it just gives you a subjective feeling of
right,
such a different way of living. Or if someone's a foodie, I feel like I used to write off foodies because it felt like a waste of time. And I was having like a green smoothie with garlic every day because it was like the
right,
most efficient way. And so I feel like with stacking more and more perspectives, you're talking about integrating time perspectives of like how changes in yourself can go back in time or even changes now, how your future can pull you forward. Uh, then I feel like you're left in a radically, it's not like you're a person just taking in more knowledge. I feel like you're just in a radically different sense of self and a different sense of reality that
yeah.
feels
Well,
very woo woo, but so it's hard to explain.
yeah. Well, it's this. I also think it's the idea as we work towards wrapping up. This idea that like we're taught for our whole lives that we add by addition, but like pretty early in the entrepreneurial journey, or even like in the life journey, you start realizing that like you are overburdened. Like you are like you've been putting on all of this armor. It's about um it's a slightly different modality that I'm talking about, but like the idea is you are when you're eight, you put on you take the armor that you know, and you're like, okay, like I got a tin can and like a I got like a stick, and then like when you're 12, you put on that armor, but you don't take the other armor off. So by the time you're like in your 40s, you're like, oh my God, like I just keep putting and more, and I feel like I'm getting less and less. And like the truth is you should take off all of the armor that like isn't actually like you don't need five five different kinds of shields. You could just take
Yeah.
the best one. Like you don't need five different kinds of mail. You can just take the one that works the best for you and take all of these things off. So it's this idea that over time you need to learn to you add by subtraction. Like you
Yeah.
add
That's
by
a great one. Yeah. I actually haven't told you yet, but I'm 44 and my wife and I just had a newborn in November. So
Mazel.
thank you. Thank you. It's amazing being a parent at 44, somewhat surprised, but my my other kids are 17 and 15,
Mhm.
and really it's transformative for me in a way that I couldn't experience maybe 15 years ago. I just wasn't there. That uh, when I'm looking into her eyes, like I feel like part of me is becoming her, or like seeing the world from her eyes, and can just see the lack of armor. Like she's just really with me. But also, let's say, like the other day, it was on the nightstand and I had this mug and it fell over and made a loud noise and she started crying. And I could see
Right.
that being terrifying if like you don't really have any armor intellectually, even, or ways of, you just hear a loud noise and you don't know what it
Right.
is or where. It's very startling. So, yeah, I like the shields one of like building the armor, but then taking it off and to be, 'cause I feel like she, although she's missing some of the armor, there's a certain amount of aliveness she has where she's just
Right.
really present to what's happening. And she could go from really happy in 1 second to like her stomach hurts and then she's really sad or uh so it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that like you do need like because like you don't walk into a battlefield without armor. But like once the battle is over, you take the armor off also. So it's this idea also that we're like we can because this it's this idea of like walking naked through the world that like I think is
Hmm.
very popular now. And it's like, well,
Literally or
I don't
figuratively as a
like
movement.
figuratively like
Yeah, I've never heard
you
of it.
take you shed all of this you shed all of these encumbrances, but it's like sometimes you want a shield. Like some like when like I was just on the phone with Bluehost and they're like driving me crazy. And like I needed to know that I was going in to like this fight because I tried it not fighting like 8 times and they just kept not doing the things. So I was like, I need to open. But then once the conversation was over, I was like, okay, I can like take this off and just like go have a nice day, go have a nice walk or something. So, but yeah, I mean, it's very hard to know when to armor up, armor down, do
Yeah,
more
yeah.
things, do less things. But like, I love that idea that you just talked about, and I know you have to get out in a couple of minutes. So, um, do you want to give maybe like one final thought to like sum up what we've been talking about? And I also want to talk because you have a new thing with Claudia Faith. You have your own thing. Like tell people kind of like what you're up to, where they can find more information about you, like a final kind of thing, and then we'll
Yeah.
say goodbye.
Yeah, well, first of all, I really, really enjoy our jams. I feel like there's multiple levels we're connecting on and multiple. So hopefully, I feel like that way of talking, probably fewer people are tuned in, but the people who are tuned in are probably resonating more deeply. And so I appreciate that. There's uncommon commonalities.
Yeah,
And so just two different things that I'm focused on most right now are my newsletter on Substack called Blockbuster Blueprint, where I've basically just been going really deep on AI for the past 2 or 3 years full time and thinking about how can you use AI to be more authentic, more get more learning from articles or explore your curiosity better and have create work that's higher quality. That's kind of the my focus and basically sharing what I learn along the way. And we have classes and lots of prompts and things like that. My form of writing, while a lot of my articles are like thousands of words long. So again, not for everyone, but I feel like I can provide the most value by connecting lots of dots in one thing that people wouldn't normally connect. And but it's also so not as much short form content there. And with Kozora, so what we were talking about before, you realize, okay, you can't learn everything. I felt like with AI, at first I was trying to keep up with everything, but now it's just impossible. I feel, and there's too many specialties. And so I think a lot of people are overwhelmed by AI. And so with Kozora, Claudia Faith, Joel Salinas, and I came together this summer. We just launched in October to help create a creator community of people who are experts in AI sharing a live class every Thursday where they share one of the biggest things they've learned, and then they share in a prompt and walk people through it on the class. So that one's kozora.org.
Can you spell that, please? That seems like it could be
Thank
spelled
you.
a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat and also spell it out. So it's kozora.org, COZORA dot ORG. And then I'll put the other one in the chat. Blockbuster.thoughtleader.school is the other one.
Amazing. All right, man. I know you got to get out of here, so I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna say bye. It's great talking with you as always, and I look forward to doing it again.
All right. Likewise. Bye, everyone.
All right,
Thank
man.
you, Russell. See ya.
Bye.